Good morning, I'm Camilla. Today I'll be talking about killer whale predation on sperm whale, observation and implication. Sperm whales are the largest of toothed whales. They're highly social and intelligent. And killer whales, they're the largest of dolphin family, and they're apex predators in the ocean, preying on practically every species of marine mammal. However, there were remarkably few recorded observations of killer whale attacks on large cetaceans. Cetologists pointed out specifically there were no documented accounts of successful predation on sperm whales. So that started a debate. Sperm whales, they're large. Compared to killer whales, the size are much bigger, and they have effective communication, herding behavior, and deep diving habits. On top of that, the lack of evidence altogether has led to the widely held belief that sperm whales are largely immune to killer whale predation. And Sperm Whale Authority Burden even concluded, as a matter of fact, the sperm whale has no enemies in the ocean besides men. But some scientists disagree. If we do some research, there is a report of sperm whale remains in the stomachs of killer whales, and also a report that 65 of sperm whales taken by whalers in Antarctica had killer whales' teeth marks on them. And this record suggests that killer whales test sperm whales regularly, and the sperm whales may be vulnerable at times. So the aim of our research is to collect first-hand and detailed observation records of encounters between killer whales and sperm whales. And we hope to come to a definitive conclusion regarding if killer whales are predators of sperm whales or not. And our method is we looked up previous studies and recorded our own observation records on NOAA research vessel David Starr Jordan, and we have 8 observers abroad with high-powered mountain spotting binoculars and handheld binoculars. In this paper, we describe 3 separate encounters between killer whales and sperm whales. Our first sighting happened southwest of Acapulco, Mexico. We saw 6 killer whales, 8 sperm whales, and a mixed herd of 80 pilot whales and bottlenose dolphins. When the killer whale first appeared, the mixed herd headed towards the sperm whale, and the sperm whales then formed the rosette. We'll talk about rosette later. We wanted to get closer, but they suddenly dove when we approached within 15 meters. And several minutes later, the killer whales reappeared, and the sperm whale resurfaced in a tight group, and the mixed herd returned to the sperm whales. As we passed within 50 meters of the sperm whales, they dove again. Now, what is a rosette? A rosette is a defense formation consisting of a stack of animals on the water surface with their heads facing in and flukes pointing out, usually for smaller groups. And there's a picture of a small group of sperm whales in the rosette. And for this sighting, we focus on different responses of sperm whales. They formed a rosette in response to threatening mammals. In this case, they might be responding to the killer whales or to the mixed herd of pilot whales and bottlenose dolphins. We don't know. Either way, they got into defense position, and they submerged in response to vessels. In this sighting, they submerged when we got too close. And our next sighting happened west-southwest of Morro Bay, California. There were 9 sperm whales, 35 killer whales, and the number of killer whales grew during the attack. At the end, one of the sperm whales was killed, and the rest were injured. At 7:05 a.m., the attack was underway when we started the observation, because the sperm whales were already in rosette formation, and there was a large slick of blood and oil on the water surface. And 4 hours later, at 11 a.m., one of the sperm whales was killed, and the killer whales dragged it away from the site and fed on it. And this is what we saw during the 4 hours of attack. In the beginning, when the rosette was intact, killer whales attacked at random and soon retreated and dispersed. And while the killer whales were gone, seriously bleeding sperm whales weakened over time. And the killer whales would be gone for a good 10 minutes before they came back attacking again. Sometimes killer whales pulled a sperm whale out of a rosette, and that sperm whale got attacked right away by many other killer whales, until the isolated sperm whale went back or was led back by its companion into the rosette. And this process went on repeat until one sperm whale was killed. Killer whale attack strategy. In this sighting, we can easily recognize the apparent wound and withdrawal strategy of killer whales. The attacks were prolonged and episodic. Killer whales adopt this strategy when pursuing large and potentially dangerous prey, and it is an attempt to decrease the possibility of injury to the killer whales, and its ultimate goal is exsanguination, meaning to make the prey bleed to death. And the sperm whale injuries, apart from the one that was killed, all of the surviving whales were injured, and some mortally. Here are a few examples. One had a huge flap of blubber ripped out open, exposing the underlying flesh, and another had a wound so deep that exposed the bones, and one has its intestine floating beside it. Intestine is, if you're afraid of blood and dead bodies, please look away. So this is the intestine, it's the organs inside whale's body, and this is what it would look like to have your intestines floating outside. Okay, enough. And one had a broken jaw. So we suggest that at least 3 or 4 of the survivors eventually died from the wound they received. Okay, our last sighting happened west of Point Lopez, and we saw a group of 5 sperm whales, and a few minutes later, another group of 5 sperm whales, and then a group of 5 killer whales. The killer whales headed towards the second group of sperm whales, and this group then submerged. We think they might have sounded an alarm call because the first group immediately traveled towards the second group. And when the second group resurfaced, we saw several other sperm whales with them, and when 2 groups met, there were 15 individuals. A few minutes later, at least 1 sperm whale was bitten, and the sperm whale was blowing more forcefully. This is a blow of a sperm whale, and this is killer whales circling around sperm whales. And after the blowing, almost immediately, at least four other groups of sperm whales charged toward the side at full speed. But the killer whale did not leave, and the sperm whales merged again. When they resurfaced, there were approximately 30 present. And other sperm whales continued to join. By this time, there were 50 present, and the killer whale apparently lost interest and left. For this sighting, we're interested in sperm whales' alarm call. It has long been suspected that sperm whales can sound a long-distance alarm call when threatened. This can explain what happened in this sighting. We don't know if their intention is to come to aid or seek protection themselves, or both, but it is certain that they were responding to a very specific and powerful acoustic signal. Summing up, are killer whales predators of sperm whale? In the past, we only knew killer whale occasionally challenge and check for vulnerable sperm whales, but the attack in sighting 2 involved a herd of healthy, adult-sized sperm whales, and the well-coordinated and efficient attacking behavior did not appear to be the first time that they had preyed upon sperm whales, and this paper provides clear evidence that killer whales are predators of sperm whales, and that sperm whales are not all invincible in the ocean. Conclusion. So we successfully collected first-hand observation accounts and established for the first time that killer whales are predators of sperm whales, and the sperm whales has developed defense mechanism like formations and alarm call against killer whale predation. Okay. Thank you for listening.
In your site 3, there is only one killer whale in this site.
Yes, there was a group of 5 killer whales, but one of them swam among the sperm whales in particular, while other 4 swimming not obviously towards the sperm whale. So I only listed one killer whale.
Oh, okay.
So what was her question? Can you summarize?
Her question is, there were 5 killer whales in sighting 3 that I mentioned, but only one of the killer whale actually attacked the sperm whales.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do we know the killer whale attacked the healthy sperm whale or vulnerable sperm whale?
For vulnerable sperm
You
whale,
have to repeat the question.
how do we know the killer whales are attacking healthy adult sperm whale or vulnerable one? So we categorize vulnerable sperm whales as the calves, and if we see they're severely wounded, we'll see them as vulnerable. And if they're young calves, and we'll see them as vulnerable sperm whales too.
What means 0705 and 1100?
Oh, that was what does 0705 and 1100 mean? They are time tags.
Oh, time. Okay.
How long the ship away from the whales, so the ship don't disturb whales' behavior.
How long do we keep a distance from the sperm whales so that we don't disturb them? We typically keep the distance 1 kilometer away because that's the distance that we can observe them clearly enough with our binoculars, but far away enough to not disturb them.
How do they locate the sperm whale and killer whale?
How do they locate the sperm whales and killer whales? How do who?
The observer.
Or how do we locate the sperm whales and killer whales? We use binoculars.
You only use the binoculars, but in your side 1 you say they dove 50 meters, and in your side 2 you say they have a arming code. So this is a tricky one. Yeah. So why they will know this thing?
Why will they know?
They only use the sight on the sea above, but why do they know they dove 50 meters, and why do they hear about the arming code?
They dove when we approach within 50 meters, not beneath the water surface 50 meters deep.
Okay. And the second one?
And the alarm call, because we didn't use a radio tag or hydrophone, so we didn't really know, but we can see many sperm whales around the area charged towards the core group at the same time at full speed. So we suspect that they were responding to a specific acoustic signal, and we call that alarm call.
Why do the sperm whale turn their head inside when they in the rosette formation?
Why do they turn their head inside and tail outside when they're in rosette formation? Because the sperm whale's main weapon is their behavior, defense behavior. One of them is tail flapping. They will flap their tails at their enemies and or attackers.
I want to know, is the sperm whale in the center has more important than others or any other meaning?
And she wants to know if the one that was put in the middle of rosette have meaning.
Yes.
They usually put vulnerable ones like calves or injured sperm whale in the center so they can offer more protection to that individual.
So actually they ask most of the question I was going to ask, so I'll go with what if the killer whales go under the rosette to attack? Is there any like mechanism to defend the attack, or?
Okay. What if he wants to know what if the killer whales go underneath the rosette and attack them? I have slides, but I don't know where it was. So their attack strategy was typically launch out of the water and dive among the sperm whales and resurface and go away. We never saw them when beneath the sperm whales, so we don't know.
So I think Camilla, she gave a very nice talk. I think most of you can follow her talk very easily. She talks smoothly, and her slides were well prepared. So you see that her slides were rich in images. And I think I can surprise you by showing you the original paper, which is actually like this. So that's the way she presented this formidable paper with a lot of text. So I think she did a really good job. She made her presentation really like a story, and it's a very attractive stories. So she, if I go into details, so I think her introduction was quite nice. So she talked about the debate, and then she gave us a clear end of research. And at the end, she also gave a clear conclusion. I don't see where it is. So this is something I have maybe repeated 30 times. Okay. I don't see. Oh, here. Here. And then she gave a very specific conclusions. And actually, I think if I'm going to highlight more keywords, I would say I would put rosette formation and alarm call. These are very specific details, but these are really new to us. So that's something interesting. This is a little bit like we are only slightly surprised. Conclusion like this. And these are really new knowledge. So I will highlight the keywords there. And then, and you see that her conclusion, her slides, when it's very wordy, she color the keywords so it's easier to read. But I think you could use the pointer more often, because during your talk, you were, at some point, you stopped using the pointer. So if I was moving my attention toward elsewhere, I would lose track of your talk. So it's always better to use the pointer. And then there are some keywords that you might consider, because your talk was about 10 minutes. You can consider spend some time explaining it, including the word. I don't find it here, but there's a word prolonged, and another word episodic. So you might consider explain it in an easier word. And it's good that you explain in testing with these horrible images, so we know what it is. And then regarding your 3 cases, citing 1, 2, 3, I would say citing 1 and 3 are nicely presented, because these kind of very descriptive details, they are best visualized with cartoons like this, and you did a really good job. But for citing 2, I think that's something you might consider also do the same thing, because I think citing 2 is a little bit full of text. And if you can try to convert or make another simple animation like you did for sightings 1 and 3, it will leave a stronger impression to me, because right now I don't quite remember what sighting 2 is, but I remember 1 and 3 because of the cartoons. Okay, but overall it's a really nice talk, so let's thank Camilla.